Today is March 15th, Wednesday. It's 10:01 a.m. I'm going to call to order the operational board meeting for the IKE 911. Mr. Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Mayor Booker,
Aye, here.
Chief Mills,
Here.
Chief Yancey,
Here.
Chief Martin, and for Chief Kenny,
Here.
and Chief Bruno here.
Thank you. Can we stand for a pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a few seconds for a moment of silence. Thank you. Do we have any guests? Anybody for me, if you could, identify yourself?
Yep, Howard Godoris, Mercury Systems Corp., from the standpoint of maintenance on the system.
Nice to meet you.
Noted, sir.
Okay.
Joe Isabella, Maywood, Homeland Security, Mercer County.
Okay.
Noted, sir. Chief.
Lieutenant, you wanna, for the record?
Lieutenant Gary,
Okay.
Police Department.
All right. Thank you. All right. I don't think we have anyone sign up for public comment.
As far as I know, no one signed up.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I request someone to make a motion for the approval of the February 22nd, 2023 meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mayor Booker,
Here.
Chief Mills,
Yes.
Chief Yancey,
Yes.
Deputy Chief Martin,
Yes.
Chief Bruno, yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next, number 9, Director's Report. Director Frank Reyes, take the podium, please.
Do we have any expenses?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I skip one?
Did I make some?
Oh, yeah, I missed, I'm sorry. Presentation approval expenses. That's still you, or Mike? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Lieutenant Mike Gable with the Broadview Police Departments. Going to go over our IKE 911 Center account balance and expenses. As of today, our account balance for the IKE Center is $924,332.27. I've provided a 30-day register of bills that were paid and deposits that were made over since our last meeting. And I also wanted to bring up the AT&T analog bill that's been discussed in meetings prior. Legal has been in contact with AT&T as well as I have, and they came to a final bill of $99,022.33. And this goes back dated to December of 2021 till service was terminated in August of 2022. They're saying that, I guess from the conversations legal has had back and forth with AT&T, is that I guess there was no exact clear mention of our bills increasing at the significant increase that they had.
Yes, that is the case, and there is some language, I guess, in the AT&T bills that gives AT&T some flexibility to increase the rates without giving direct notice. And so, we're still working with AT&T on getting better notice of these things and dealing with their constant price hikes. And, we're also dealing with it on the village side as well. I do have a meeting scheduled with AT&T next week on another matter, but I will be discussing this as well. I'll be bringing it up. So hopefully we can maybe see better bills in the future. Are we done, is the IKE done with AT&T now?
Well, that's why we bring this up, because we will not be done with AT&T until the bill has been approved for payment.
But there's no more service being provided by AT&T?
Just the non-emergency lines that the IKE answers, those are still being provided by AT&T.
Are
We
those
just
paid
don't,
for
we
by
just
the
don't
IKE?
have the, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, these were the old analog lines that we are using for dispatch until we went to Starcom, to digital.
Yes, I don't expect any additional, but basically AT&T has told us this is as far as we're gonna go on these bills. But, you know, looking towards the future, well, if the IKE is not using AT&T any longer in the future, then obviously that's not relevant to the IKE, and I'll just deal with it on the village side.
So is this like our final offer, or are you gonna have the meeting to discuss it further?
No, I think that's it. That's
Move to
just,
approve.
Yeah.
Move to approve payment.
Okay, Lieutenant Booker Mayor Booker, I'm sorry, has made a motion to approve the payment of the $99,022.33 for the AT&T. Can I have a second? I'll second. Okay, it's been properly motioned and seconded by Deputy Chief Miller. Roll call, sir, please.
Okay, Mayor Booker,
Aye.
Chief Mills,
Aye.
Chief Yancey,
Aye.
Deputy Chief Martin,
Aye.
Chief Bruno, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Do we
Okay.
need to move to approve the whole budget?
are there any other bills?
Is it done?
So-
We need a motion to approve the whole budget.
And I think
No,
we
I,
have some
he,
other expenses.
Lieutenant Acom just stated, there are no other bills that need to be approved, is that correct?
That was the main AT&T one. There are two
there are.
from Mercury Systems. However, I would like to let Mr. Godoris explain the Mercury System invoices for work to be completed.
Sure, address one of them, I guess. Let's go one at a time.
So where does this at?
You gonna take him the mic?
Are these invoices or are the quotes?
These are two quotes.
These are the quotes.
What was your first question? Okay.
Yeah. That's what we saw the last meeting.
Thank you. Just here to give more information on the PRI
Thank you,
system
sir.
that we approved last month, the 19,000.
Portability, like that.
And then this month's licensing.
Right. Do we want to address the need for the PRI equipment? Okay. So we want to talk about things separately because we don't want to mix everything up. So the PRI, it stands for Primary Rate Interface. And what that is it's a digital method to receive telephone calls from the Maywood is installing a new telephone system, or they're planning on it, and it's going to be implemented sometime in April, from what I understand. Maywood currently has an old phone system that provides the transfer functionality that IKE uses. So when Maywood calls come in, we're bringing those calls from the PBX system at Maywood PD, and we're extending extension lines through the Comcast network we have in place. Now there's other things on that network. There's the video for the jail cells, there's the door controls and some other things that we have connected to the PD. So we've been bringing these lines down through that circuit since IKE was put together. Maywood has always had some sort of a PBX switch at their location. This new system that Maywood is going with is an IP telephone system that is cloud-based, where the switching takes place in Comcast facilities over a network, which means that the transfer facility that IKE has been using for Maywood calls will disappear. When that PBX disappears, IKE will not be able to transfer Maywood calls back into the Maywood telephones. Okay, follow me so far? Okay, so what the PRI service does, this is not the first place we've had to do this, by the way. What the PRI service does is it gives us a method to receive calls from the Maywood, from the newly designed Maywood telephone system, for administrative. Those calls can be directed to IKE over this digital circuit. Ike can transfer those calls back into the Maywood phones and also to anywhere else that they may need to go. So we'll have the flexibility also to transfer calls to like field units that need, like if an administrative call comes in, normally you could only transfer it to a Maywood extension. Now you'll have the ability to not only transfer it to a Maywood extension, but also other places like say in, you know, a cell phone on the scene or something like that if something was needed like that. So the reason for this is that, which is kind of tied, this is all also kind of tied to the previous thing you talked about with the phone lines, the AT&T lines, is that the analog lines, AT&T's been trying to get rid of them for years. And the customer base that's out there has been, there's, you know, straggling to replace them, you know, replace those lines with better means of functionality. But what's happening is it's becoming the only means of functionality. So in order for us to transfer these calls back to Maywood or anywhere else for that matter, it's the only functionality that's available to us, adding it onto the 911 telephone system to handle these administrative calls. Any questions on that?
Just one is, because I ran into this in our, the other day, when I call from our line to our dispatch over here.
Right.
And I said, okay, talk to him for a second, answer a couple of questions, and I actually speak to Chief Mills. They said, you call from a Maywood line, we can't transfer you. Is that?
So you're calling into the Maywood phone number?
Right.
So does it call into
Yeah, you should be calling into the Broadview phone number. Will it help? See, your 911 telephone system is not the big switch. It's not the, it's just one switch connected to the phone network, okay? So can changes be made to make that more fluid? Yes. Is that the way I had suggested this, and I had been working with Marvin on it, I suggested this, I said that if Ike has the hardware and Maywood provides the line, that gives you a clear demarcation point of whose responsibility is where, okay? So the way that this works is that the telephone lines that we're currently bringing down from Maywood to Ike over this leased telephone or leased Comcast circuit that we have in place, those would be replaced with 10-digit numbers here at Ike, and there's a new design of how the phones will work at Maywood, and there's a synergy between the way we engineer this to work with the Maywood lines. So you'll be able, you know, we can make it so that you have the ability to call directly in. Now see, you're not all using one phone switch. Maywood, you'll be using the phone switch by Comcast. Broadview has its own administrative telephone switch. That's the difference, is getting the call from one system into the other. So through the use of this system in with the 911 equipment, is that it opens the doors for what we can do. So, you know, we should be able to make it easier for you to call in, you know, into the system.
Mayor, your question? Yes, so my only question was looking at the invoice or quote that has the 1-year warranty on parts. Why is it only a 1-year warranty?
Because that's what the manufacturers offer, 1 year. But I would say that you're covered because that equipment becomes incorporated into your annual maintenance, okay? Which that's not, the cost for that coverage is, actually it's the beauty of this, that piece of equipment will go on to your maintenance agreement, and the maintenance agreement will not add an additional dollar for that piece of equipment, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, there may be adjustments annually,
Sure.
you know, that we look at in the maintenance because of our costs, but the thing is that becomes part of the main system.
So we approve, so
Okay.
Okay.
Say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm
So
sorry.
you said this isn't the first time you.
No, we've had this exact same thing. We do this exact thing for Cook County. Cook County had, as a matter of fact, Cook County Sheriff was utilizing the state police telephone system for years. And we had actually gotten them off of the state system. But what's happened is since the county has taken in a number of towns that they answer for, we actually have it so that we're able to answer their administrative calls through the PRI line, and they're able to transfer them wherever they need to go. So it worked out so well. Director Bennett, he, expanded on the usage of it. They put in to the PRI line, so they have like 46 call capacity for that particular operation. So, I mean, like they can answer calls from different towns up at Des Plaines. Also, recently, Cicero is in exactly the same situation. They went from their own PBX with direct connections into the 911 system, and they went to a IP, exactly the same business voice IP system. And when they did that, I sat down in meetings with their engineers, and I said, well, how are we going to deal with dispatch? And apparently Cicero never told them they had a dispatch center, so at that time. So we had to work this out. And it was the only way to do this effectively. And the good thing about it is that the functionality of the PRI service here at IKE does not have an effect on the Maywood operation, and vice versa. They're independent, and it makes IKE kind of like an island that switches the calls back and forth through the public phone switch network. And then, of course, the billing for that, they don't charge you by the call, so that means that all of the calls back and forth are covered in your monthly billing. Does that work? And then Hillside, we did the same thing up there. That's how we handled Hillside answering Westchester's calls. We researched this and found that POTS lines, are you familiar with the word POTS, plain old telephone service? POTS lines is what we've all been using for years for phones, right? At our homes and all of that until we got our cell phones. Well, AT&T raised the price of these lines. For every line, it was individually at one time like 25 bucks a month or something, and then they're charging 100 bucks a month for them. And that falls in line with the same problem you had with the radio lines, right? Okay, so the thing is that it used to be a rule of thumb is if you got over 17 of those, it was time to get a digital line. Now, if you only have 3, it's time to get a digital line. You know, that's how bad it got with AT&T. Okay. And I believe that the move to Comcast is an excellent move for Maywood, and we use their services here too for the wireline. And I think everybody's been pretty pleased with the fiber optic, the performance of the fiber that Comcast provides. Now, I don't resell Comcast. I'd like to, but you can't. We can't resell to government, Comcast services. But the thing is that if I could, I would. So hopefully that explains that. And then the quote that I gave IKE covers the main unit that goes in for the PRI, and then there's also a backup unit. These pieces of equipment are very difficult to get. And if you buy one, and if it fails, you're covered for the cost of the repair. You're not covered for how long it's going to be out of service. Like it's going to be. So you need to have an offline spare, which we do have for other pieces of equipment in the system. So you are covered both ways,
All right,
warranty
thank you.
and extended coverage.
All right. Lieutenant, motion to approve the 7th.
Anything else about the? You had a question about the, I think, licensing or something? Or, go ahead.
So during this install period, there's not going to be a backup of calls to the 911 center? Or
No, the 911 part of this won't be affected whatsoever. But, and hi Marvin. And so during the time when Maywood makes the transition from the PBX to the voice over IP service from Comcast, is that you probably will see some interruptions in there, but those are going to be planned interruptions. I have nothing to do with that. Marvin, I think, you're directing it? Okay, so Marvin's directing that with Comcast. But what we're planning on doing is having the PRI service installed here at IKE so that we are prepared to receive calls that come from their new network. So that means we're going to stay connected to the old PBX at Maywood. We'll get calls that way. And then once Marvin directs the calls to go to the new system, we'll have the PRI service in place to receive calls. So that should be smooth, to get that. I've always seen, our company, we sell PBXs for small businesses and stuff. And the thing is that whenever you're doing what we call a cutover, going from one system to another, is that everybody tries hard to plan that out. You know, I don't envy your position, Marvin, in doing this, but the thing is if everything's planned out okay, even if you plan it out the best that you can, is that the day that you flip the switch to the new system, I'm talking about on the Maywood side, there's always something that's got to be fixed right away or patched, or somebody's phone might not ring, or it's going to voicemail, and you're going from an old system to a new system that's never been used before. You know, that particular part of their network has not been used for the Maywood application yet.
So, but it won't be anything different for the citizens?
No, now that depends on, right, now that's all part of planning, and the numbers that the general public calls in Maywood, if you're planning on a new automated attendant at Maywood, if you're planning on answering the calls there first and then directing them to IKE, see, I'm not sure what your plan is because I'm not involved in that part of it. That's all part of Village of Maywood technical plans that are being done inside the village. See, I have to look at this from the IKE point of view. We'll receive the calls, but how they're switched at Maywood before they get here, that's something that we have to make sure that we work out correctly. So hopefully that answers your question. The thing is I'm not in control of the whole thing.
I just want to make sure people can call 911 and call.
No, 911 will not be affected. I probably could have kept it short. 911 calls are not part of this. This is only your like emergency administrative calls and administrative calls. And you want to maintain that ability to in a very fluid way to communicate back and forth. And the Chief's question about not being able to call it Broadview Chief directly or something like that is that now is the time that we address those things, and then we look to see what the integration requirements will be needed for it. But whatever they are, they're included in this transition. There's like no we're not going to charge extra for that.
All right, thank you, Howard.
Sure, no problem.
And for the record, sir, can you identify yourself?
Yeah, Marvin Savage.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir. We kind of,
Last questions for Howard?
Did you have another one for me?
Yes,
I think it had
we
to
do.
with the
So,
I-3 license, yeah.
we kind of jumped around from the presentation approval of expenses into new business. So Howard did just address from Mercury Systems, the PRI gateway. We also, Lieutenant Aiken, can you give us, you attached another.
The other quote.
National.
Right.
Yeah, this one here.
That's the license, right? What he was just talking about.
I think after this, you probably won't want to hear me talk anymore. So,
I thought he was not like, what he said, like the other one is, he was on this one.
So Howard, did you just explain the Z-Tron Next Generation licensing?
this is, right, what I'll do is I can explain this and I'll try to, one of the things we've never done is had a meeting where we talk about the state of the next generation 911 with, how things are going with the state and all of that. Does anyone here get mailings from the state or emailings from the state regularly on the status of the next generation 911 for this area?
No.
So I know Frank does, okay. I get them because I deal with the state director regularly. Anyway, I just want to, this thing with Next Gen 911 has been going on for years. And there's expenses to it that are needed, which over these years I've tried to defer back into the future as far as possible, because it didn't make sense buying something you didn't need 2 years ago and then finding out 2 years later it may not be applicable or it may be obsolete or something by then. So we waited. And so when IKE purchased the 911 equipment that they have, or that you have here, is that the foundation of the system is capable of the next generation connection to the state. But at the time, the state did not have all of its ducks lined up with having the specifications for their particular connections. They didn't exist yet. So then the factories, and I don't mean just Z-Tron, this is other factories that make phone equipment. Every time a state makes a decision to go next gen, they always put a little twist in how it works with their system. During that time, they had elected AT&T, our buddies at AT&T, to be the network for the 911, for the next generation 911. What's the difference? Right now, we're using old antiquated copper phone lines to receive the 911 calls. Next generation is utilizing voice over IP network connectivity with the state. That network didn't exist before a year ago. So it's been developing over time. So we've been monitoring it and watching it. At the same time that's been going on, all of the factories have had to make adjustments to their software in order to make it so that you could connect your equipment to this network. So in your maintenance agreement with our company, the software for the system is free. We don't charge additionally for that. When a new software comes out, we, in the background, in the course of doing preventive maintenance, we install the new software and bring it up to the latest version. We did that recently where we did it here and at Hillside back to back, but there's another version of it coming out because the state changed something in their software. So then we're waiting for Zetron to provide us with what we call the 4.3 version of software so we can bring it up to the level that we can communicate with them on. Okay, the license, there's an I3 license and a session border controller on that list of items on that quote. The I3 license is one of those things that we really need once we get to the point, it's like we bought the car, we've been shining it up, we're getting it ready to go, but now we need a license to drive it. Said, well, we're not 16 yet, so now we're turning 16, we need the license. We waited until the end, so that way we weren't buying the license too early. So the license opens up features in the software and that are specific to Illinois. So that's what the license is for. Okay, so, and you only need one, because you have one system, one controller. That's lifetime, it's not renewable, you don't have to buy another one next year. Okay, so that's just a one-time.
So,
The other device, there's a device on that list called a session border controller. And does everybody here know what a firewall is?
Yes.
Okay, does everybody trust what's on the other end of the AT&T connection? You know what I'm saying? Is that, would you connect to the internet? Would you connect to the internet without a firewall? I wouldn't. What this is it's a specific firewall that gives us isolation from the AT&T network and disallows bad stuff from coming into your network. And it also it's programmed to be very rigid about the traffic that it allows to go back and forth for 911 calls. Now, in the future, as all of this develops, we'll have the ability here to receive images or movies or AVIs or whatever becomes the standard where the public can send us an image of a car accident or a fire or something like that. That's not going to happen immediately, but we're getting the connectivity for everything geared up so that we can receive these calls in the future and manage them. You know, we still haven't even gotten to the point of who's going to review them before they're delivered and things like that. So I don't even want to go there yet, but that's in the future. Right now we're focused, and the state is focused on just getting the regular plain old voice 911 calls, the locations. The thing that will follow right after that will be text. So we'll receive text to 911. The telephone carriers like T-Mobile and Verizon and all those guys, AT&T, everybody's got a mobile network. They're all coming together with standardizing how the text is delivered to this area. And once AT&T gets that, the text and the telephone calls, switching and all that, will route through, it's a name called Intrado, and AT&T uses their services in order to organize all this stuff. So, and that has to do with the mapping part of it. There's GIS things that Frank is working on that have to do with how the state knows. From Earth coordinates, how do you know where to send the call? You know, when you're on your cell phone, the only way that anyone's going to know where you are is your cell phone telling the system where on the earth you are with your latitude and longitude. Well, that goes into a system. Something's got to determine what PSAP to send the call to. So the state's still in the middle of working all that out. and they're doing it region by region, okay? So our preparation here is, the last thing that we need, that we know of, is the license and the SBC, or the session border controller. So that's exactly, you know, what we need to get that far. In the future, they may say that for certain types of video or something, you might need something else. They haven't come out with the specifications yet.
Okay, thank you, Howard. So
Okay.
the date, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
One question.
Yes.
So the 7,000 is a one-time charge. Is there a monthly charge that's added to this?
Which one, which was
We're
that?
talking about the Z-Tron Next Generation.
That's the SBC. No, that's all, by the way, that piece of equipment also got a year warranty, gets put into the maintenance agreement. And then the license is a one-time thing, doesn't change anything. It's the one-time license. They unlock a lock in the software. When I say they, the factory, we work with them to unlock the software. And then once we do that, because we haven't needed it yet, you know? So we wait until we need it.
Thank you.
Right, and I've been an advocate here for Broadview, Maywood. I'm a former Maywood resident, and I've been an advocate here for Ike and everybody here, trying to keep things at the lowest cost that we can and to keep them understandable, you know? And if anybody ever has any questions, just feel free to call me. You guys have my number.
So last question before we make a motion for the approval of this. The quote that we have is dated 10/21/2022.
We're still good.
Still good.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, I request a motion for the approval of the purchase of the Z-Tron Next Generation i3 SIC licensing from Mercury System.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Mayor Booker, second by Deputy Chief Yancey. Roll call, sir.
Okay, Mayor Booker? Aye. Chief Mills?
Aye.
Deputy Chief Yancey?
Aye.
Deputy Chief Martin? Aye. Chief Bruno? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Right. Should we approve this?
The national emergency
Did you guys approve the PRA?
We did.
Okay. So that was that vote. AT&T's been approved. What about this national?
No, that's what we.
725.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
And we still gotta go back up to the
Okay,
directors.
right.
Because we can.
That sounds like we can.
Yeah.
We should probably actually change the order of the agenda.
Yes.
Put the expenses next to each other.
Okay.
Put the director's report above the approval of
Probably should have
expenses.
been under, like, revenue report.
Yeah.
And had all that instead of new business.
Right, yeah.
Chief Bro and I will meet before the next meeting and figure out this agenda.
I'll call you.
No. Yes, absolutely. Lieutenant Acom, can you give us some information on the National Emergency Number Association?
Yes, sir. And Howard, thank you for providing your technical expertise and explanation for that for us. The last bill I have for approval is NENA, which is the National Emergency Number Association. This is just an annual renewal that, according to our records, has been going back for the past 10 years for $725 for the 2023 year. That's the last bill we seek for approval.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Mayor Booker, second by Deputy Chief Yancey. Roll call, sir.
Okay, Mayor Booker? Aye. Chief Mills?
Aye.
Deputy Chief Yancey?
Aye.
Deputy Chief Martin?
Aye.
Chief Bruno? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
We'll have to do a motion to approve all these expenditures, so they haven't been done.
You've already approved
Okay.
them all, yeah.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we kind of got out of order. We're going to bring Director Reyes up for the Director's Report.
Good morning, Director Reyes from the IKE 911 Dispatch Center. Today I have the status updates from February. February 2023, the center received 5,444 calls via the 911 emergency or non-emergency phone lines, generating 2,671 documented calls. In comparison to February last year, we received 4,333 calls and documented 2,569 calls. Calls received are up 111, and calls for service are up 102 from last year. Broadview telecommunicators are still without a new contract, still in negotiation or Actually, at this point, they are now waiting on approval of what they're gonna get. For the month of April, we're still looking for EMD certification courses to send more dispatchers. We have 4 that'll be done by the end of this month, and we'll seek out more classes for the rest. And as the lieutenant stated, the balance of the center was $924,332.37.
Any questions for Director Reyes? Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, we'll now go into old business. Update from council establishing IKE 911 Emergency Joint Agency as an independent agency.
So the Village of Broadview had a meeting on Monday, a regular board meeting, and it was announced at the regular board meeting that the Public Safety Committee would be meeting after April 15th. So that's, I don't have an update other than that. We'll be having a meeting sometime after April 15th, and after that, then we'll be able to present to Attorney Jurusik our proposed changes to the IGA that can then be discussed with the Maywood people, and we'll continue negotiating it after that.
So we're still at the same original draft from October of 2022 with no recommendations whatsoever, 6 months later?
Well, I've been reviewing it and discussing it internally, but we have to have a committee meeting, and the committee meeting can't happen until after April 15th due to availability, is my understanding.
Election season. Okay, well, I guess Maywood in April will have us, talk about the state of the IKE 911 Center, and just explore what this is, because I don't understand why we're still 6 months in, still talking about this. I understand that when Maywood first came over to IKE 911 from the previous administration, many things were delayed, not certified, frustrating, annoying. But since we've established the new administration, everything has come into compliance, and it just seems very frustrating on the Maywood side that for 6 months we can't even get 2 sentences of a response on a full document that we're looking at dealing with. And I understand that there's other things that happen, but it really does not take 6 months to even give a second draft for us to be reviewing at this time. So I'll take that back to our board, and we'll go from there.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Thank you, Mayor, for your comments and concern. Old business B, update of rewriting the IGA between the villages. I think it was the same.
Yes.
Chief Brona and I will get together and put together a new agenda.
Real quick, yeah.
Yes. And C, discussions involving the proposal from Westcom Telecommunications to merge operations. Director Reyes, did we get anything else? I know you reached out to Brian Staunton a couple of weeks ago, and can you share?
As of that last communication, when he advised that he did send in a application for the grant, but he has not heard anything, and probably won't until June.
He sent an application in for the grant that we didn't even get to see before it was submitted?
That's what he said. It was, I guess, for the possible grant for the consolidation purposes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
That makes sense. That's what we're delaying.
Okay, at this time, I would ask for a motion for the adjournment.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Deputy Chief Martin and second by Mayor Booker. Roll call, sir.
Okay, Mayor Booker,
Aye.
Chief Mills,
Aye.
Deputy Chief Yancey,
Aye.
Deputy Chief Martin, Chief
Gays
Bruno, aye.
Case was properly moved and second. Adjournment at 10:42. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Real quick. Today is March 15th.
Deputy Chief Martin? Here. Chief Bruno, yes. Here, sorry.
Thank you. For 3, 4, old business, new business, there is no new or old business. All the topics that have been discussed was discussed during the earlier IKE 911 Operational Board meeting. Is there any questions or concerns as it pertains to the joint ETSB meeting on any of the topics? All right, I ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it has been properly moved by Deputy Chief Yancey, second by Mayor Booker for the adjournment. Roll call, sir.
Okay, Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Chief Mills?
Aye.
Deputy Chief Yancey?
Aye.
Deputy Chief Martin? Aye. Chief Bruno? Aye.
Okay, it has been properly voted. It's the adjournment, 10:45. Thank you.
That fun of your next.